Okay, so let's start out with the question, what events in your childhood had the biggest impact on you?
What events are my childhood? Um, let's see. Hearing the Beatles and Frank Zappa when I was 10 years old had a giant impact on my imagination. Before that, I had gone to the circus when I lived in New York, the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, and I became obsessed with clowns. And I used to draw clown faces, like hundreds of them. I just loved drawing clowns. Another important event was when my grandma encouraged me to, paint and use crayons and things like that. And eventually, when I was 6, I won an art contest with a drawing I did, a painting I did, and it got sent around the world. So all those things were very influential. Yeah, they helped me focus on creativity and art and music.
Any favorite artists?
Visual artists or
Visual.
instantly my favorite artist as soon as I found was Hieronymus Bosch, old Flemish master living around in the what we call now Belgium area.
Okay. Reminiscing back kind of to your, kind of more teenage years. What was your first job and what was the kind of biggest lesson that you have took from it?
When I was 13, I took a job as a clown for children's birthday parties, and I brought a giant bag full of pots and pans, and I made the kids play in a band. So I thought that was a really good idea. And then my next job, I was picking blueberries in a field where I grew up in Lake Hills outside of Seattle. And I learned from that, boy, working all day in the sun for so small money and one McDonald's hamburger if you stayed extra was just not really so cool. I wish there was, more I could do with my life. So it kind of made me focus on music a lot. And the next job I had was working as a laboratory assistant in my dad's science lab at the University of Washington. And that helped me know that I didn't want to be a scientist. I'd rather play rock and roll.
And talking about your parents,
Yeah.
How did they influence your outlook on the world or even your profession?
Well, looking at bands like Frank Zappa and all these different things I was into, it seemed like it was a good idea to be very weird. So I started collecting mannequins and dressing up and letting my hair do funny things and wearing crazy outfits at a young age in school. And being in bands on a stage and having people watch me and clap their hands and listen to my loud keyboard playing, it just gave me a great sense of power and imagination. Like whatever I could think of to do, I can show the audience and maybe they're going to like it. It was a great feedback loop working in my band in front of an audience of people listening to my loud keyboard playing and weird ideas visually.
Okay, you say weird. So what do you disagree most about with other people?
What do I disagree most about with other people? Boy, that's a hard question because there's not something, let's see. Growing up in the United States and even in Seattle, which is a cool place, I just thought that my neighbors' priorities and our social values and our political system and our governmental, attitudes and actions were all wrong. So I, really was vocally against war in Vietnam. I was marching for farm workers' rights when I was like 12. I just thought the people didn't really value justice and they were kind of uptight and hypocritical. So I think I generally have disagreed with society and government ever since I can remember, and very, very much so. Not even every now and then, because of music and art, I meet creative, free-thinking individuals in every country of the world. And it gives me great hope because I know I'm not alone and there are many people that feel like I do. But generally growing up, it seemed like the rules and the job thing and the economy thing and the government thing was oppressive.
So it seems like from an early age, you mentioned 12 years old, you were kind of politically and socially aware.
Yeah.
So as a musician, even, artist, even author,
Uh-huh.
what do you think is kind of your biggest power in making a change? Is it even possible to make a political change as an artist?
Yeah, I think so. First, I want to go back and say that it wasn't something special that I was a young person in the 60s and 70s, becoming politically aware, because all the rock and roll, a lot of the best stuff, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, Frank Zappa, contained very powerful satire or messages about, look at the world. It's a joke. We got to do something. We got to get together. And there was a great hope when I was growing up that if enough people got together, that we could levitate the Pentagon and we could revolutionize the world. I don't think it happened to the degree that I hoped it would, but I still think, every time you have an opportunity to go in front of a group of people and say, I think this is wrong, or I think this music is cool, or I think this is a bad behavior from the government, you have a chance of spreading that message and bolstering someone else in the world. And it could be a small one-to-one, little group by little group, but it has an overall psychic effect, I think. I wouldn't be discouraged just because 1 million people didn't vote to change a law that I thought needed to be changed. I just think, do what you can.
And talking about society in general, and also people individually, what do you personally respect and appreciate in people? What kind of character traits?
The most thing I value and respect is kind of the boldness to be oneself. I like people that when you see them and when you talk with them and you see what they've created, that it's not copying someone else. It's not they're just not trying to be someone else. They've really found something and they're respecting their individual quirks and talents and uniqueness, and dressing that way, talking that way, coming up with their own ideas, their own speech, their own voice. There's a lot I really love about people when they become independent and a little bit bold about expressing themselves.
Okay, building on that in regards to music, is there a city which currently is maybe underestimated and have an influx of really great, bold musicians coming on?
I'm seeing a lot of really great music all over the world in little towns and places in the north of England. There's amazing bands. I just recorded a band from Switzerland, a rock and roll band from Paris, which is not very common. But I have to say that New York City right now, nobody knows it, but there's hundreds of great bands right now. The reason nobody knows about it is because it's not like, say, the 90s or the 2000s where the media is jumping up and down to tell you about this great scene in New York. It's almost a sin that it's not being covered and broadcast widely. But I think I've worked with something like 60 bands in the last year and a half in New York City. And there's an amazing rebirth of rock and roll there going on. And I want everyone to know about it.
Have you ever been starstruck?
Have I ever been starstruck? In a hotel in Tokyo when I was with the Strokes, the Doors were standing in front of me, the remaining members. So I met Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger, and they were like my early heroes, especially Ray Manzarek because he played keyboards. That's why I wanted to play keyboards. And so just to shake his hand and smile and have a little chat with him, that was really starstruck time for me.
Okay. Talking about your own work, even in Mental Mannequin, solo work, or Cries.
Okay.
If you have to pick one album that defines you, which one is it and why?
I love this album I made called I Lick the Moog. I think that record is so uniquely me that it's almost like my whole essence and my aura and everything about myself and my personality got put into that. It's not the easiest to absorb. But it sounds incredible, and it was made in the same studio where I recorded the Strokes in New York, Transporter Realm. And it was just this time in my life where I was still not known as a producer, but I thought of myself as an artist. and I was really putting everything I could into those songs. So I Lick the Moog holds a very special place in my heart.
And kind of what I would say, your kind of albums and music fits into psychedelic rock. So what is it specifically about this genre? Was it popular when you were growing up in Seattle or anything like that?
Psychedelic music was like, let's say when I was 10 years old and I heard those Beatles album, it was Sgt. Pepper's. Frank Zappa album, it was We're Only in It for the Money. And they were both psychedelic as hell. And as a 10-year-old, it wasn't like I was thinking, oh boy, I want to do drugs. That wasn't the thought at all. It was like, I'm 10 years old and I go to school and I'm putting on this music and my imagination is seeing pictures of things I never thought about before. And this doesn't feel like what they're teaching me in school. And this isn't what's happening in my neighborhood and my family. This is something special. This is a new vision. So for me, psychedelic music is anything that just shakes up your normal vision and puts new sights and ideas in your mind.
Growing up in Seattle, were you ever tempted to join a grunge band or form one?
I was in Cries Mary during the grunge era, okay? And we were not a grunge band at all. We were a tribal space rock band. We had a DJ, we had a girl and a guy singer, we had a psychedelic light show. I played a row of keyboards and samplers and things like that. We were not like any other band at the time, but we got a lot of love in our town. We were very popular. We got record deals and went touring and all that good stuff. But I never thought I needed to, I didn't write any grunge songs ever, and I never put on the uniform. Like if I was going to wear cutoffs and a flannel shirt, I was going to have fishnet stockings with my boots and lipstick and lots of makeup and things like that. So I always, combined a little bit of glam rock and psychedelic even when I was in the grunge time in Seattle.
But if you had to pick one.
Pick one what?
To join a grunge group. From let's say Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam. If you had.
My favorite band in the Seattle time was Alice in Chains. I would love to have played synthesizers on some of their songs for sure. Yeah.
What about just rock albums in general?
Rock, yeah.
You can't say one of your albums, but what is truly, in your opinion, the worst rock album ever made?
Worst rock
Yes.
album? I don't know. I've never heard it. If I hear something bad, I turn it off. But I could tell you lots of good ones, but I can't. Nothing comes to mind for worst rock album because as soon as I hear a song that I don't like, I just turn it off. So.
What about, as a producer, poorly made?
Poorly made rock album? Sorry. I never put my mind into that space before. I was always looking for the inspiration and the greatness. And, if something didn't qualify, I just quickly passed it by. I never studied something. Listen to this record. Oh, it's so bad. It was just like, oh, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I like the Monkees' first album. I like AC/DC. I like Alice Cooper, Love It to Death. I like Jane's Addiction. I like all kinds of rock music, for sure.
Okay, what about a recording session that has gone, let's say, poorly or wrong? How do you get out of that situation? What's your approach?
I've only had 2 recording sessions that have gone wrong, and they're both kind of the same thing. In one case, early in New York, before my Transporter Realm studio, I recorded a guy who was on heavy drugs. And for hours, he would try to sing his songs, but he couldn't sing in tune. And the hours were getting later and later, and I was literally falling asleep. But since he was paying me, I closed one eye and slept with half of it. And then with the other eye, I had open, and I was recording him play the wrong notes over and over again. That was horrible. And then I worked with a young band in Texas where the singer relied on the engineer to put auto-tune and correct his singing, and he also couldn't sing in tune, and I didn't know that ahead of time. I heard beautiful demos, and yet he could not sing. So I yelled at the engineer. I said, "You're going to record this singer, and for 1 week, I'm just going to sit at my laptop and go on eBay and look at turntables and instruments because I do not want to work with a singer that cannot sing in tune. That's not my kind of job.
What about auto-tune? I mean, it sounds like you're kind of sorry. It sounds like you're kind of wary of using it.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about artists that overuse it, especially in the rock genre?
I don't use auto-tune. I mean, every now and then, a few times a year, a singer will say, I sang that one note out of tune. And I can use a different plugin on Pro Tools and by hand, turn it up where I think it should be. I don't use the auto-tune. And usually if I'm recording a singer and they sing a note wrong, they might say, oh, I missed a note. I go, okay, sing it again. And we fix it by him singing it again. I never used auto-tune. I don't know how. And the one everyone uses is called Melodyne. That's the real scientific tuning program. And for the bands that use it as an effect, I generally, ever since Cher came out with like, do you like, I really lost the joke. I never needed to hear that sound.
In a previous interview, you said that there's the possibility that you might work with the Voids. Okay?
Yeah.
Can we hear or expect anything in the near future?
Julian has been asking me to record with the Voids for 10 years or something. I don't know, a long time. I remember talking to him at festivals in Barcelona, but it hasn't happened seriously. I'm flattered that he asks me from time to time. And if it would happen, I'd be very happy and it would be lots of fun. Probably hard work too, but fun. But I have no expectations of it right now.
What about genres? Okay, so what is the genre you would like to write a solo album for?
Oh, that's very interesting because I'm just coming out of a phase, like all my solo albums that I've done up till now. I have one more to release, which is happening May 1st. My album, Good Morning, Mrs. Sunshine, is coming out May 1st. And on that album, I made a challenge for myself. And this was back in 2013 when I wrote it. I said, every day I'm going to start a song after dinner, 6 p.m., and I'm going to finish it by 2 in the morning and, mix it and it's done and never touch it again. And the rules are that I have to do things that I would not normally do, like not what a normal Gordon Raphael sound. So I have some like poetic hip hop. I have some just 2 guitars and vocals. I have some piano and violin music on it. It's really all over the map. I was really letting myself explore genres and not do what I expect of myself and what I'm kind of known for. So I really don't know what to expect for the next record. I haven't even started thinking of it or done it yet. So I'll let you know. I hope it's going to be very different.
What about frequencies and how they kind of influence the human psyche? Do you believe in that?
I believe that music and sound can alter consciousness and definitely influence mood and even physical vitality. If I'm feeling low sometimes or really depressed, I can put on some loud music of my favorite kind and I kind of feel great after. I feel real powerful and my imagination starts working. So I don't believe that the frequency of 438 hertz, that's the spiritual healing for the throat chakra that's going to evolve your mind. I don't believe in that. I just don't care about it. I think it's great that someone like, I forget, it was Schopenhauer. I don't remember. One of those old composers made a whole color chart of each tone and what color it represented and what part of the human psyche. I thought that was really cool. I'm sorry I can't remember his name right now. If it was Scriabin, maybe it was Scriabin, a classical composer, probably Russian, in the 20th century, made a color scheme that seemed very interesting. I don't necessarily believe it's true, but I love that he went to the detail of that. So I think frequencies and sounds and music can alter consciousness and really lift up and change moods. Like for some reason, I like to listen to The Cure, really depressive music, but it makes me feel so peaceful and so happy. It's not logical how it works. It's very personal and very emotional.
What would you say, or kind of provide an explanation for music critics that kind of belittle music from underground genres and let's say favor maybe art rock or classical music?
I have a trouble with critics in general. To find fault with some music, or I think it's great if a critic or a writer finds something that they're really excited about and has very interesting, authorly, well-written examples of why they like it and what's special about it. That's very rare. It's more like they're kind of cynical and they're just kind of bashing something because you can sell a lot of, being negative and being kind of violent against art or different things is very attention grabbing. And so I don't have much use for it. Yeah.
What about going back to Seattle?
Please.
Do you think that if you would look back at yourself and you would know the future, what you would become, would you do something differently?
No, I'd be really happy, because there was a long time where I had this vision of myself and what I was going to do and how my music was going to work and how I was going to express myself. And at first it was really hard to make songs and sounds that I respected. Like it took a long time to be happy with my own work. And then even when I was happy with my own work, nobody else was hearing it. And I was penniless. I didn't have a job, I was living very like poverty, hoping someone was going to bring a sandwich by to my house for lunch. And I envisioned myself this genius traveling the world and talking to people and seeing all these places with my music, and then at a certain point it started coming true. In the grunge 90s with Cries, suddenly I could pay my own rent and I could buy Thai food and keyboards and guitars and recording equipment and tour and make records and videos and go on TV shows in America. That was like, hey, that's what I was thinking about when I was a teenager. Now I'm doing it. And then when I became a producer and I met the Strokes and it went to another level where I could now travel to England and Japan and Brazil and, people liked working with me. It's kind of been a dream come true, everything.
Would you say that manifestation works?
I think that if you powerfully believe, if you don't have to fool yourself into it, if you really believe in something that you're doing, even though other people say you're doing the wrong thing or you'll never make it or you're not very good, if you just believe in it and say, I think I am good, I think what I'm doing is important, then there's a great power in that self-belief. The more you believe in yourself, and in a good way, not an ego way, the more people share that, people, hey, look what he did, he's gone on this arc and now he's doing this and still making music and still pretty cheerful about life. Those are good things, and I think they're infectious.
And how important is it for you to leave a legacy?
Not that important, although I sometimes hope that people in 20 years will be able to find my songs, or 100 years will be able to find my music. I think my music is like my little children, and I want them to go on and into the world. But I don't think I need to leave a mark, even though people tell me I've left a mark or impression, or they're happy I did some things in my career. That's not really what I'm here for. I'm here to have fun and to learn stuff and to enjoy each day. It's more important that I breathe and that I learn new things than it is to leave a legacy.
Outside of music, do you have any hobbies?
I like going to coffee shops, and I like looking at people, and I like movies and books and art and traveling and conversations with new people, especially interesting people that I find interesting. Yeah.
What about your favorite author?
Favorite author? I have a couple favorite authors. Some poets, Allen Ginsberg, an author, Richard Brautigan, Trout Fishing in America. He wrote that book. It's a wonderful book. Kurt Vonnegut has always been one of my favorite authors.
And you mentioned that you like traveling. So yeah. Do you find any resemblance to England, let's say London, Leeds, to Seattle?
Yeah, and I could compare it. I mean, everywhere I go, Mexico, Seattle, when we're talking about music and talking about working with musicians, it's like everybody speaks the same language. Kick drum, electric guitar, bass tone, vocals, distortion, energy, tightness, and coherent. Like it's the same everywhere and very easy to communicate about that. Although it's very interesting that culturally, even Leeds and London are completely different. Manchester's different to Leeds. Seattle is completely different than New York. LA is different than all of that. San Francisco is different. So it's beautiful to see the physical and cultural and vibe, if I may say so, differences of everywhere, but also in the heart of the artists, it's very similar what they're trying to do with their lives and their art.
And how important is the surrounding, let's say a city? Does it influence your songwriting?
I think surroundings are very important. The difference between going into a coffee shop with neon lights and poorly made coffee and people behind the counter that look like they hate their life and hate you being in their shop, as opposed to going in somewhere that's really just aesthetically pleasing with people who look like they're having an interesting day, with coffee that tastes like a work of art. I think in the studio the same way. A studio that's kind of thrown together or budget, or downtrodden, compared to a studio that's got beautiful lighting and colors and nice sounding rooms and space to walk around and space over your head and good sounding speakers. So I think environment everywhere definitely influences my mood and my creative and power approach.
And what is something you would never do, either musically or in life?
Something I would never do as a producer would be to accept a job with someone and then kind of be indifferent about what they're doing, or just treat it like a job, or be negative, or create an environment where I'm critical of them. I want to create an environment that's very uplifting, and I want to help them, and I want to make sure they're having fun and smiling and doing great music. So that's one thing I would never do. In life, I think I would not like to slow someone down in whatever they're doing, or interfere with someone that's trying to do something of their own. I wouldn't want to get in their way or slow them down in any way.
And you mentioned at the start that you like bold kind of individualities.
Yeah.
So for anyone who is watching this right now and is trying to find themselves in this world,
Yeah.
what would be your advice?
To take some time and go on a walk and be by yourself for a little while and see what ideas come up from yourself about what you would like to do, what song you want to hear, what color you want to paint your room, what you want to do in your notebook, what you want to do with your life, how you would enjoy living your life. Just think about the things that you really, really want, and don't be like, well, the teacher said I can't do that, and mom and dad said I can't do that, and our society doesn't seem to like these kind of people. Just let yourself be free in your mind to imagine what you want to do, and then as much as you can, try and make it come true.
And what is the song you would never, ever want to hear again?
I don't know. Gosh. Song I never want to hear again. I don't know, because I don't listen to songs I don't like. I only listen to songs I like. And, I don't listen to the radio. If I go in a shop and they have bad music, I leave. I just don't hang around bad songs, so I don't know them.
What if a song that you like, but you have overplayed, that you can't physically listen to again?
I listen to some music that I've listened to since I was 13 and 14. I listened to Jethro Tull Aqualung when I was 13 or something, and I listen to it still like twice a week or something. My favorite music never gets old. It always works like a drug. I put it on and I feel these great feelings and I have visions. Yeah, I've played my favorite music so many times that I should hate it, but I love it.
Are you going to write another book?
I'd like to write another book, yes. I'm afraid of the time it takes to sit down by myself to do it. I had the pandemic as an excuse for the first book, but I think I have lots of stories that are funny and odd that I want to save for a second book, so I should get on it soon.
And do you know or have kind of idea what would be the title of it?
No, I don't know. Like, this first book was centered around the Strokes and how I got to be a producer and how I met the Strokes. Because I thought that was the most commercial part of my life, where people, oh, the guy from the Strokes, you know, they might know that and buy the book, so that I could make a second one that was more obscure. So the concept of the second book would be all the other stuff.
As a Seattle legend, okay, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
A Seattle legend.
And you can't use those two.
Okay. I would say rainy trees dreamer.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Wow, your interview questions and your delivery and your spontaneity were awesome.
Thank you so much.
Really
Appreciate
good, really
it. Thank
good.
you.